Everyone hear me? You can see we're being recorded. Awesome. Welcome everyone to a very special Cook with Meg class, air quotes. Tonight isn't so much a class, but it's a chance for us to put the spotlight onto someone really, really cool. And his name is Chef, or I should say CMC. He'll tell you all about it,
Oh, come on.
Michael Allemeyer. And I'm not going to waste too much time here. I want to get right into it, but I want to just tell Chef a little bit about who you all are in relation to me. We are Cook with Meg. Chef, we started 10 days after the pandemic started. So March 26th of 2020 is when Cook with Meg began. We started by teaching virtual classes to families in a couple of provinces. We're coming up on 5 years. We are now in 5 countries, and we've got families spanning the globe. I would say mainly North America. And we have some students that you will meet tonight who I've been cooking with pretty much since day one. We're
Well,
seeing them grow right before our very eyes. And we offer classes about 2 to 3 days a week that are cooking and baking classes. We also do virtual summer camps. And it's a chance for kids to learn all about the basics and going right on up to some pretty complicated recipes where we encourage friends to cook with their families. So what we do at Cook with Meg is we inspire kitchen confidence. That's my goal. I went to culinary school. I'm a certified professional cook. So I have not worked as a cook in a restaurant. You can explain your designation, which you have all the restaurant experience, but I am by all accounts an instructor now, and my goal is to really bring families together and to inspire kids and teens to get that kitchen confidence. And some of these kids tonight, most of the kids and teens tonight, are in our brand new program called Culinary Explorers. And that's a brand new program that we're running for 6 months where they learn three separate classes aside from what we would normally do at Cook with Meg. So it's not necessarily following a recipe from start to finish, but it's learning those foundation skills. And then from that, they are going to apply their skills and create fun videos, create by the end of the program an original recipe that they created themselves, and then earn a badge. So that's what we're doing. And as part of this, we wanted to expand beyond just cooking with me. And a lot of them may consider going to culinary school. So we thought, who do we know in this world who could be one of the best to share their experiences? So Mariah and Kaylee and Kylie and the Jeski crew and Ariana and Riley and Declan, Kane, Shayla, Callum, and whoever else is watching as a recording, welcome, and certainly welcome to Chef Michael Allemeyer. Good evening.
hello everyone. I can't tell you how happy I am to be here. I always love hanging out with my favorite type of people, which are cooks, and it's amazing to see all of you with Meg's told me some amazing stories of what you've accomplished and everything like that. So I really look forward to just sharing some time with you and sharing some stories.
I love it. So I guess just right out of the gate, to tell everyone, if I know most of you have read his bio and you've had some questions, you are a South African born Canadian. You are an
Yep.
instructor currently at SAIT, which is Southern Alberta Institute of Technology, for those who are not in Alberta. You're a former executive chef at a number of places. Tell everyone a little bit about your journey and really where you were and where you are now.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned that I was born in South Africa. So the reality is, I had a very unusual upbringing in the sense that I was raised on three different continents. So I was born in Africa, in Johannesburg, and then we left South Africa and went to Hong Kong, and I lived in Asia for a couple of years, which was absolutely amazing. And then I immigrated with my family to Canada when I was 14 years old, and we went to Toronto and spent a couple of years there. I have to tell you, my first winter in Canada, I thought I was going to freeze to death. I literally thought it was such a shock coming from those warm places. But we've adapted, and winter is now one of my favorite times of the year. And I'm an avid skier, and I love being outside, so that's amazing. And then my family moved to Winnipeg, of all places, and I finished high school in Winnipeg, and I started my cooking apprenticeship with Delta Hotels in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And my father was German, hence my last name of Allemeyer. So I was always raised that if you're going to do a trade, you do an apprenticeship. And an apprenticeship is a hands-on learning environment where you work in a professional environment with people that are better than you, and you basically learn your trade in this productive environment, which was absolutely perfect for me. I absolutely loved it. I did a 3-year apprenticeship, and then at the end of my apprenticeship, I challenged what's known as a Red Seal or journeyman exam. And in 1989, when I was 19, I became a journeyman cook. And then the whole point of being a journeyman is that you gain more experience. And I moved to Vancouver shortly after that, and started working at probably one of the most influential or impressionable kitchens I've worked in, a wonderful place called Bishop's, and named after John Bishop. So John was a chef, but he was the owner, and I joined his team. And I think one of the most fascinating things about being in that kitchen was all about ingredients. That's where I really, one of the strongest, most important philosophies for me about cooking is about respect for ingredients and starting with ingredients. So many chefs want to just do techniques, which is important. Of course, you need to know how to cook. But for me, what makes food so exciting is ingredients. And I really, to me, it's the starting point. So a lot of the time, my wife will ask me, "What are we going to have for dinner?" And I'm like, "I have no idea. I'm not one of these guys that'll have like a bunch of recipes in my head. I look to ingredients for inspiration. So we'll go to the market or we'll go to the grocery store and we'll shop and we'll look around to see what is in season and what looks the best, right? And so I'll start with the ingredients, go buy some ingredients, and then take them home and cook them. And that's literally how that all starts, right? So I had a couple of wonderful years in Vancouver, 2 years of being a sous chef at that restaurant Bishop's I was telling you about. Know what a sous chef is? Does anybody know that term?
Repeat that one
So,
more time. What was the
so,
question?
so, so does anybody know what a sous chef is in
Ooh,
a kitchen environment?
Kylie's got her hand up and Callum's got his hand up. Kylie, we'll go with you first. You can turn your mic on.
What do you
A,
got?
a sous chef is basically an assistant.
Well done. Yes, absolutely. So the sous chef means under the chef. So every kitchen has what's known as the chef, and the chef basically, literally translated, means chief or head of. And so basically, you're working underneath that chef. So I worked with an amazing chef. He's still my friend to this day, named Adam Busby. And I worked with him for 2 years as a sous chef. And then he left that restaurant to go open up his own restaurants. And all of a sudden, the owner comes to me and he didn't actually formally offer me the job. He basically just said, "All right, so for your new menu, this is what I'm looking for." And all of a sudden, I'm 25 years old and I've just been given the keys to the best restaurant in Vancouver. It was just such a mind altering experience. It really, really was exciting and terrifying. Let's be honest. It was a really scary moment. But you know what? It's one of those times where you just roll up your sleeves and you get to work and you just start doing what you love to do. And I was John's chef for 5 years in that position. And in those 5 years, the amount of growth, the amount that I learned, the what I learned about ingredients and food and people were amazing. Now I got to cook for some amazing people at that restaurant because at the time there was a lot of Hollywood people doing movies in Vancouver, and name like any type of actor from the 90s, I probably cooked for them is the
Jason
reality.
Priestley.
Absolutely. You kidding? He was, I mean, I actually cooked for him a lot when I was in the Okanagan at Mission Hill, to be honest. Um, but one of the most memorable meals during that time was I was asked to cook for President Bill Clinton and President Boris Yeltsin from Russia at the '93 summit meeting in Vancouver. So here I am. I'm 25 years old, and I'm cooking for the president of the United States and the president of Russia. And that was arguably one of the most important meals of my career, still to this day. just because of the level of engagement that we had to do. So what was interesting about that meal is technically the White House, even though it was in Vancouver, the White House was responsible for the meal, and they were the hosts per se. So Bill Clinton had some very specific ideas of what he wanted for that meal. He wanted a simple salad to begin with. He wanted a seafood pasta, he wanted salmon, and he wanted a blueberry dessert. Now, the challenge with the blueberry dessert was it was the wrong time of year. There was no BC blueberries available. And I tried all my suppliers and I couldn't find any blueberries anywhere. So I went back to the people we knew at the White House and said, we just can't find any blueberries. And they didn't miss a beat. They said, you know what? That's not going to be a problem. We're just going to send Air Force One to go get them. So they literally sent Air Force One, which is the plane of the President of the United States, to go get a case of blueberries for this dinner. I mean, it was just like bonkers. It really was crazy, right? So I had couple of yeah, my years in Vancouver were amazing. Amazing access to ingredients and just cooking at a really high level. It was amazing. And then my wife and I moved to Whistler, and I worked for Fairmont Hotels for a year at their property in Whistler, and then I got an opportunity to come to Calgary. The people who own Teatro restaurants, they called me up and asked me if I was interested in coming to Calgary and running the operation there. And of course I was. My wife and I were thinking of starting a family, so we're like, let's go to Calgary. And had an amazing run at Teatro in Calgary. And then I went to the Okanagan, where I worked at a winery called Mission Hill Winery that actually had three different kitchens. We had a restaurant, we had private functions like for banquets and parties, and then we had a culinary education kitchen as well for doing cooking classes. So education was a big part, and that was really kind of the beginning of my educational years. But while I was at Teatro, I'm just going to back up here a little bit. I was at Teatro, I actually did a little bit of television. I was part of a show called Cook Like a Chef that launched in 2000, and we did 5 seasons, 185 shows. And basically, the whole premise of the show was about teaching people how to cook. It was literally called Cook Like a Chef, and that was pretty amazing opportunity. Very nerve wracking, very scary, with four television cameras looking at you, and directors and producers and all this type of stuff, right? So that was pretty amazing. And then my time in the Okanagan, I loved because once again, I returned to what I really love to do, and that's starting with ingredients. And if anyone's ever been to the Okanagan in British Columbia, there's amazing fruits and vegetables, and it's a great place to cook, especially in the summer months when you have access to so much stuff. Now, one of the things that's important to me as a cook, as you know, because I've shared it, is ingredients. So something I've done in the Bishop's Kitchen, the Teatro Kitchen, and the Mission Hill Kitchen is I build relationships with farmers. And I normally meet farmers in January, and we would go through the seed catalogs together, and I would commit to seed and to certain produce. And then these farmers would grow me produce, and I would commit to everything that they grew, and I would buy it and I would cook with it. So that's how important ingredients are to me, is where I'd actually want to kind of control where I was getting all my ingredients from, right? And I tell you, that is next level when you can actually ask a farmer to grow you food so that you can serve it to your guests. I mean, talk about control of your food chain. It was absolutely, absolutely amazing.
Steph, I will interject quickly to tell you that a lot of our families here tonight have gardens in their backyard and
Amazing.
would do a class in the summer months. Many of you will point out that these are the green onions I grew and these are the cucumbers we grew. And what a source of pride to know that you're not only that you're learning about your food that you are then going to use to eat. So
I,
awesome.
th- I I think that if I could change one thing about society, I would I would change it so everybody knew the person who produced their food for them. because when you have that relationship, when you know that person who's grown something for you, or if you've grown it yourself, which to me is the best thing, because I'm the same way. My garden, everything in my garden you can eat. I'm just one of these guys, right? If you can't eat it, I don't grow it. Pure and simple.
That's
That's
awesome.
just who I am, right? And yeah, so that was a lot of fun. And then now I'm an educator. As Meg said, I got a Sate called me up and said, "Hey, do you want to come join our team?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's go. Let's start a new chapter of my life and take my career in a whole new direction." And I joke now about how I'm in the people business if someone asks me what I do, because like Meg, I basically teach people how to cook. And what our program does at Sate is actually prepares you to get a job as a professional cook in industry. So you can go work in a restaurant or a hotel or a private club or go on a cruise ship or, there's so many opportunities. And I look back, I've been teaching for 15 years now. In total, does anyone want to guess how long I've been cooking for?
Ooh. Take a
Here's
guess.
here's
Take,
a crazy, and don't worry, you're not going to hurt my feelings.
you can
Okay,
type your answers into the chat too if you
it's
want.
a big number, just so you guys know.
Oh,
From my first cooking job to this previous summer, there was actually quite a milestone.
what are we
How
getting for
many
answers?
how many years?
I see some fingers typing here. 25. Both of you said 25. 25, 25.
That's so kind of you.
How flattering they are. Oh, 41.
Little
30.
higher, little what? No,
Really?
higher than 30. Oh,
34?
okay. Shayla, you're pretty close.
Wow.
Oh, I'm not that old. Ah, you guys are awesome. You know what? That's a really nice spectrum of numbers there. But
Yep.
this past summer, I celebrated my 40th anniversary of cooking. Um,
That's amazing.
yeah,
That's amazing.
which is amazing. My first cooking job I got before my apprenticeship. I was still in high school. I cooked at the St. Boniface Golf Club in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and it was just a summer job. It was the summer before I was going to go into grade 12. And as soon as I finished grade 12, I went right into my apprenticeship. So yeah, that was 40 years in the kitchen, if you can believe it. And the reality, being an educator now, is I get to work with the next generation of cooks and chefs. And it's absolutely amazing. And that's why I joke about how I'm in the people business. So I teach basically everything and anything, depending on what the program needs from me. And but something that was quite instrumental, and this is something you introduced me with, is when I was at Sate, I wanted to really challenge myself when I first started. And in Canada, they launched something called the CMC program, which stands for Certified Master Chef. And I started my journey in 2013, and it took me 4 years to complete this designation. So, does anyone want to guess how many Master Chefs are in Canada?
Ooh.
Because I kind of like this game. I kind of like you
They're,
guys
it
thinking about
is a
this a
fun.
little bit. Yeah,
And not to be confused by the television show MasterChef. That needs
yeah,
clarification.
yeah.
Totally
So,
different.
so, so this is actually a trade designation.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Any guess?
Oh,
Ooh. Okay,
so
12.
a little bit of perspective. It it started in 2011, so it's a fairly new designation for Canada. So the reality is, there's only five of us. So there is only five CMCs in Canada. Now, this is a really tough program to get through because there's only five people that have completed it, but over 40 people have tried it.
Whoa.
And so just because you do the program doesn't mean that you get the designation. You have to pass 11 different exams. It took me 4 years to do. There were four cooking exams that I'd have to fly to Toronto and actually cook. And everything would be evaluated in these 2-day kitchen hands-on examinations. And yeah, no. So in 2017, I was the third Canadian chef to earn the CMC designation. And since then, two more have got through. COVID kind of slowed things down, and we're next year, hopefully in the spring, we're going to be launching a whole new class and getting some more people through there, right? So,
I have a question for you, Chef. Now that you hold that designation, is it are there things you don't know how to do? Or are you pretty much like, I got it, I got it. I know you've got the chops to figure it out, but what does that feel like walking around a certified master chef?
so the reality is, I sometimes suffer from imposter syndrome. I don't know if you guys know what that is. Of
You
course,
really?
because you feel like you can't make a mistake, right? But the interesting thing with knowledge and the interesting thing with learning things is the more that you learn, the more that you realize you don't know.
Yeah.
And the more I invest in myself, the more I realize, wow, there's just so much more to know and learn, which is great for me because one of my mantras in life, one of my favorite expressions in life, and one of the things that defines who I am is that I'm a lifelong learner. And how on earth can I be a teacher if I'm not a student as well? And the two go hand in hand. So actually now being an educator, it puts me in a situation where I need to constantly be learning and learning and learning. And I'm not afraid to admit if I don't know something. In fact, if we're in a class and I don't know the answer to something, I will tell the class, listen, I don't know what this is, but let's find out what it is and let's learn and grow together, which is really, really important because it's okay to say, hey, I don't know something. The thing that isn't okay is if you don't do anything about it. You should then go find out what the answer is.
Yeah. Well,
That's
I love that you talk about being a lifelong learner. And I think that everyone here in the room tonight obviously is here because we are curious cooks and we are always asking the questions and we are always trying to learn, learn, learn. Who wants to share with Chef right now what we did in our Culinary Explorers class, the last one we did, which was flavor profiles? Chef, we talked about the 5 different flavor profiles. Oh, Callum, I feel like you're in a car. Are you in a car right now?
I am in the car because I'm at laser tag for my scouts and it's at the exact same time as this.
Are you kidding me right now?
Uh
I was
the the 5 flavors are, and I have them right here:
Okay.
sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami.
Yeah.
umami.
Can you explain umami to Chef in your words? Because at class, we really had fun with that one.
I
I
can't
love.
explain it.
He can't explain it. That's it. Allow,
Wow. First
allow.
of all, I'm so impressed with your commitments that you're sitting in the car outside of laser tag. Thank you. That just means the world. Wow. Holy
And
cow.
and I think that when he said I can't explain it, we were talking about the different flavor profiles. And the class that we did last week was we all brought a list of ingredients, speaking to your ingredients, and we went through each of the flavor profiles and what they are and what they represent. And then we started building all of these combos and we were tasting and we were coming up with ways that we could use these combinations as things that we make. And umami was one I think we probably had the most fun with. In your words, Chef, can you describe umami as a teacher?
As a teacher, absolutely. So, umami, this is something I've spent a lot of time on. And it's something I love and I'm super fascinated with it. And it can be a bit of a unicorn in the food world. And the best way I like to describe umami is that it is savory. It's not salty, but it is savory. So when you eat something with umami, your whole mouth gets this savory sensation. Like if you eat a piece of really ripe runny cheese, if you have this wonderful piece of thinly sliced prosciutto, if you have something fermented like kimchi or something like that, or like perfectly roasted roast beef that's a nice medium rare, and you put it in your mouth and you just get this really intense savory sensation. And that's how I like to describe it and talk about it. But it's so much more than that as well, because to different people, it's different things. Like you look at a lot of fermented foods, like like miso paste or soy sauce or natto. I know we're getting a little crazy with that, but these are all wonderful, wonderful examples of that. Soft runny cheeses is probably one of my favorite ones.
I love that. What advice would you, if I can move into a few questions, what
That
advice, oh, am I frozen or am I good? Give me a thumbs
Yeah,
up.
no, no, you're good. You're
We're good.
good.
Okay, what advice would you give, Chef, to all of our kids and teens who are here today and cooking every week in, week out? They're not yet necessarily to high school, they're not at college level yet. What advice do you have for them for these young cooks who really may want to go into that world post-secondary?
Well, first and foremost, you have to love it. Because if you don't love it, don't do it. Like it's just pure and simple. Because when you cook professionally, you really have to love what you do because it's a lot of hours. It's can be stressful. The kitchens can be hot. So you need to really, really love it. It needs to be, for me, I've always joked about how I don't have a job. I have a lifestyle. And that is truly how I feel because I love going into the kitchen. Like, still, after 40 years, I still get excited when I walk into the kitchen. When I get to walk in the kitchen and I put on my chef's coat every morning and I'm buttoning up my buttons, it's almost like it's to me, that's a very special ceremony where I'm getting ready to go cook for other people. I'm getting ready to go share what I like. I'm getting ready to be curious. I'm getting ready to create something. I'm getting ready to be creative and to be technical and to be organized and to do all of these things at once. And still, after all this time, I don't take anything for granted. And I still genuinely love still walking into a kitchen after all these years.
I love that. I love that. Now, we asked our guests, oh, Kylie, we asked our guests to, or our class tonight to bring questions. And I certainly don't want to ever put anyone on the spot. If you're more comfortable typing yours into the chat, but is there anyone that has a question for Chef right now? Kylie, I see your hand is up. Callum, your hand is up. So let's go with Kylie first. What's your question? We have them here. Let's ask them.
Question. What is your favorite thing to cook or bake?
Oh my goodness. That is a tough question. Wow, wow, wow. So I don't have one favorite thing. Cooking to me is one of these things where I look to the season and I look to how I'm feeling. Like, am I happy or am I a little sad? Am I celebrating something or am I kind of just feeding myself? Um, but if I was to pick one thing right now, because it's winter and it's a little bit colder, one of my favorite things to cook this time of year, especially because we're getting close to the holidays and a lot of celebration, is probably duck. And I love the versatility of ducks. Now, have you ever tried duck before?
Like,
Like,
I have like only a few times.
okay, wow, that's amazing. What I love about cooking duck, and I like to start with the whole duck, is the versatility of it. You can do so much with one of these little beasties. And what I love is I actually do enjoy butchery. Like I do enjoy starting with like a whole animal and then breaking it down and respecting each part of that animal. To me, that's very important when it comes to meat, is I firmly believe you respect in life and you respect in afterlife. And what that means is that I use everything, right? So when you have a whole duck, you can take the breasts off and you take the legs off and then you save the fat and you make a stock with the bones. And the legs and the breast meat need different ways to be cooked. And because they cook differently, the breast is nice and pink and rosy, and the legs like to be cooked a little bit slower, whether it's like a confit or a braise or something along that line, right? So I love being able to bring the best out of that little beast by making sure I respect every single part of it at the end of the day, and nothing gets wasted. So I enjoy that whole process. And it's just really delicious as well, which is when you get that nice crispy skin, it is just the best.
I
That's
love
nice.
that. Callum, let's take thank you, Kylie. Oh, by the way, Chef Kylie has a goal one day, perhaps, to own her own bakery and hopes that we will be customers of
Oh, amazing. Well, you let me know and I'll be there. No,
Callum,
seriously, that's
Callum,
amazing.
you had your hand up, bud. We'll go to Callum, and then I see some questions here coming through in the chat. What's your
Sure.
question for Chef, bud?
Um, I have many questions, but I'll start with one. What is a funny story while you were in culinary school? Like what mistake did you make? Like, what's funny in your culinary school?
Oh, good
Like
question.
when I was in culinary school, so many, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Oh, let me think.
I'm sure there
That
were
was
a few, right?
that
Because
was that
we
that was
all,
that was definitely a while ago. Um,
or maybe some funny stories that you've got in your classes with current culinary students.
well, does everyone know what mincemeat tarts are? So it's a Christmas tradition. It's like dried fruit and this little tart and everything else like this. I was doing a function in Quebec, and in mincemeat's a very English thing, and my mother's English, and so I grew up with this. And I was doing an event with Canada Beef in Montreal, and the dessert that we wanted to do involved doing a mincemeat bread pudding. So I love bread pudding. It's one of the most comforting desserts that there is. And what you do is you take the mincemeat mixture that you do, and with the dried fruits and the almonds and the peel and all of that stuff, and then you put that into your bread pudding and you go ahead and bake it. But the chef I was working with, he was very French and he had no idea what mince was. So he thought it was minced meat. So he ended up putting ground beef into the sweet bread pudding,
Oh
and
boy.
it, it was by far one of the craziest experiences. And this was for an event for 80 people. And we didn't realize this till after the fact because he was taking care of that. And the reason I was doing the mince was because it was for a Canada Beef event, and true mince has beef suet in it, which is a type of fat, and it's actually really delicious and it works really, really well. So that was probably a time when something kind of went not to plan. And it was actually, believe it or not, that was actually really, really good because there was lots of other seasonings in there and everything else, and everyone had a good joke about it, and it was a good laugh and everything else like that, right?
Well,
So
we often talk about making it work, so it sounds like you definitely
yes.
you made it work. Okay, thank you,
So
Callum. All
so
right,
so, so
question.
so one
Oh,
more thing I
yes.
just want to add to Callum there is when am running kitchens, running classes, I know mistakes are going to happen, and I never get mad about mistakes. The golden rule I have in any kitchen is don't bring me problems, bring me solutions,
Hmm.
right? So mistakes happen, and I always tell my students this, and I always told my cooks this when I was in industry, is I'll never judge your mistake. I'll always judge your recovery,
Ooh.
right? So how do you fix it, right? And I think that is the beautiful thing about food is sometimes things do go wrong, and kitchens are busy places, and this happens. So it's not about the mistake, it's always about how you fix it,
Love that.
right?
That's great
And
advice.
that's really that's one of my one that's really important to me.
I
Is
think
it is it like you said, you don't like scream out or anything? Is it like trying to overcome uh accidentally putting too much salt into one of Meg's dishes that we did?
Just a minute. Did you wait? Are you saying that during one of our classes you put too much salt into something? Did you recover? Were we able to get you to recover?
It was it was in our last class
Okay.
when we were our our last class where we had to put in flour and salt.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I didn't know if that was good.
Oh,
It was
well,
with the sausage balls.
oh,
I
I
put
see. I see.
salt in.
I see. Well, you know what? Here's the cool thing about all of you. I know that when we do our recipes and when we work through classes and when we work through all of our step by step, sometimes things do go sideways. We talk about it all the time. So there are some things we can make work. There are workarounds. Sometimes when it's something like salt, we may have to go back to the drawing board a little bit. I think Chef would agree. There's only so much you can do to fix some of those things. But
Yeah,
what I love most about you all, and I am going to say this in front of Chef, you are all so positive. And that is something that we just really want to continue to encourage you that things rarely go exactly to plan. Cookbooks with those perfectly curated photos are cookbooks for a reason, right? You're in your kitchen, you're getting
yeah,
creative, you're taking things in different directions. So I say we make it work as best we can. And I think if you were probably in chef's class, you would agree that mistakes do,
100%.
right? It's how you learn from it.
Mistakes happen all the time, and if you can recover, that's great. Sometimes you have to start again. Something that's really important in that situation is that you always keep looking forward and
Yep.
you never look backwards. You have no control over what you've done. You have all the control over what you're going to do.
Yep.
And that's really, really important.
I love that.
And yeah, sometimes that's a tough one. And it's something I see a lot.
Mm.
Uh, Either not enough salt or too much salt.
Yeah.
And it's a little like Goldilocks, right? You got to get it just right.
Totally. Chef Riley, thank you, Callum. Riley and Declan are asking, what's your favorite spice?
Oh, good question.
While
I
he
really
while he's thinking, type into the chat and share your favorite spice with Chef.
Okay, so one of my favorite questions to my students is, what's the difference between a herb and a spice?
Ooh.
This
And
is something you hear all the time, right? So my answer to that is a herb is a leaf and a spice is every other part of the plant. So it's the roots, it's the bark, it's the seeds, that type of thing, right? So probably my favorite spice would probably have to be either star anise or green cardamom.
Mm.
And but probably star anise. I love it, especially it's just so versatile. You can use it in brines, you can use it in sauces, use it in baking. It really, really is quite amazing. And if those of you who have never had star anise, it's got a sweet licorice flavor to it, and it's absolutely amazing. It is brilliant. Yeah,
We're seeing nutmeg and cinnamon and cloves.
beautiful. Yeah, those are all. These are all these sweet Christmas spices.
For sure.
Yeah.
We have another question here. The question is coming from Kane. What is the hardest thing you've ever made?
Cooking for Presidents Bill Clinton and Boris Yeltsin.
Done. That's
No,
fair. That is fair.
because what made that dinner so crazy is we had to do a full run through the night before because the White House has a position called the etiquette protocol officer. So they have to make sure that there is nothing in the food that could cause offense to the people who are at the event. Um, Now, we did for the pasta course in Vancouver or in British Columbia, there's this beautiful crab called the Dungeness crab. So I did a ravioli with Dungeness crab meats, mascarpone, and braised leek. And the lady who was trying the meal, she had never had crab in her life before. And it turned out she was actually allergic to crab and she had to go to the hospital. And so we're all freaking out the night before, thinking like the lady who's meant to like give us the final seal of approval, all of a sudden she's off to the hospital. because of this meal. And turned out she has never had crab before and she's like highly allergic to it. So she went full anaphylactic, and we are like, this is not good. But it wasn't the ravioli, it was her. And yeah, that talk about stress. That was insane.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Um, Riley, that's wild. Riley and Declan, do you have a go-to comfort food?
Okay. Like just full disclosure, like my favorite go-to snack, potato chips.
Yes.
I love potato chips. There is my doctor doesn't like me eating potato chips, but that is like just as far as like straight snacks go. But as far as foods go, potatoes. I love just everything to do with potatoes. I love the versatility of potatoes. I love what you can do with them. It can be a pierogi, it can be a star into itself, even just like, like really well-made mashed potatoes on its own. I mean, there's just it's food for the soul. I think it really comforts you. It's nutritious, it's delicious. It's just, yeah, just amazing. I love potatoes.
On that note, we are literally a week and a bit away from holidays. Do you have a mashed potato hot tip you can share with our families?
So yeah, no, a couple. So making mashed potatoes. I believe in using a ricer, a potato ricer. So a potato ricer is a special machine that basically you put your potatoes in and they come out lump free, right? Now I always when I make mashed potatoes, I always use whipping cream and not milk. I know that there's a huge difference between using milk and whipping cream. The flavor is absolutely amazing. Hey, perfect. You know what? I have exactly the same one at home. That's exactly what it is. So that's a potato ricer. So what you do is you cook your potatoes, and it's really important to make sure your potatoes are drained really well because you don't want to have excess moisture in there. Make sure your potatoes are all the same size when you cook them, so they cook evenly as well. Because if they get overcooked, they can get like really waterlogged and soggy. And then you drain them really well, and then you put them in the ricer and you close it, and then there's like beautiful little rice noodles kind of come out of it. And it ensures your potatoes are really, really nice and smooth. But the most important thing when doing a mashed potato is make sure everything is hot. So your cream or your butter that's going in, make sure it's hot. Melt your butter in with your cream or your milk. Like I said, I like using whipping cream. Yes, it's decadent. But man, oh man, does it ever make a huge, huge difference, right? So rice your potatoes and make sure everything is hot when it's going in. So don't put in cold milk, don't put in cold cream, don't put in cold butter. All right, make sure I like to melt my butter in with my cream and then just put it all in there and mix it up. And I just use a rubber spatula because you don't want to work it too much because it can put it, if you work it too much, they can become quite gluey, and you don't want that. You want them to be like really fluffy and amazing, right? So yeah, there you go.
Ariana was holding up her potato ricer as well to show you. There she is.
Well done,
Um,
well done. I love
Callum,
to just
did
have a
you,
potato ricer
I
handy. Like,
know you
it's
had a
great.
question. Is it about potatoes, Callum? Because we want to get through more questions. Uh, hold that. We'll come
Um,
back to you, I
I,
promise.
um, it's. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna watch the recording because I do not want to miss laser tag.
You need to go to laser tag, my friend. We
I
understand.
I don't blame you. I want to go to laser tag. You kidding me?
Bye, honey. We'll see you soon. Thanks for staying, bud. That means a lot.
Uh,
Have fun. Have fun.
uh,
Okay. What is your favorite flavor profile? That's sort of a part two. I think we talked about love
Oh,
duck, but you also love for profiles like stone.
yeah.
Where do you fit in the
Um,
flavor profile world?
I love citrus and I love vanilla.
Ooh.
Um, and vanilla obviously more in a sweet application, although vanilla works really great in a savory application as well. I like to do a vanilla bean, must be fresh vanilla bean, and parsnip puree or vanilla and parsnip soup. If you're ever doing a parsnip soup, put a little bit of fresh vanilla bean in there. It's absolutely amazing. I love cooking lobster with vanilla as well, poaching it in butter with fresh vanilla. Absolutely extraordinary. But I love citrus, especially this time of year when it's a little bit colder, because believe it or not, the winter is actually the best time to enjoy citrus. That's when it's at its best, right? The Meyer lemon season is just about to begin. And to me, the Meyer lemons are probably like the greatest of all the lemons that they are. And when they are super fresh, they're almost a little pink inside, like a grapefruit. They're absolutely amazing, and their flavor and their smell is just absolutely bonkers.
That now, Shayla, kind of piggybacking on that, what is your best ingredient to work with? You've named a few already. Are there others?
Ah, yeah, yeah. My best ingredient to work with. There's no substitute for butter.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
There really is. I mean, you can use it to finish sauces. You can use it to cook things in. You can actually use it as a cooking medium. You can actually, believe it or not, there's a method called beurre monté where you actually emulsify whole butter and you can actually keep it emulsified till about 78, 80 degrees Celsius. And you can actually use it to poach like fish and, and vegetables in, and it's absolutely amazing, right? So I'm gonna go with that.
Like that's a good one. Jesky Crew, thanks for coming tonight. This family is awesome. They work through as a whole family recipes. If they miss it, they grab the recording. They always work through. And I mean, we love all our fams, but Jesky Crew said, is your style of cooking different at home than at a restaurant?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think on a day-to-day basis, I tend to cook a lot more simply. Although that being said and done, one of our favorite things to do at home when we entertain, when our friends come over, is I love collecting records, vinyl records for music, and we do this little thing called a record party. So friends come over. I've got hundreds and hundreds of records and we spin records and I cook food and everyone just has a good time. And, so if I'm doing something like that, obviously like I really up the game quite a bit. But, the reality is I'm not eating, you caliber food. Well, although, it's always very good, of course, right? But I do love comfort food. Like I had lasagna for dinner tonight, right? So just something, simple and quick and easy, for sure, right? But yeah, it depends on the place and the time.
But you probably put everyone's mind to rest and let everyone know that there are days you don't feel like cooking. That,
No, absolutely not.
right?
Sometimes I want some time off. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Kaylee, I'll get to you in one sec, Kylie. I want to grab Kaylee's question. What type of cookware do you mostly use? That's a good question.
Like cookware, as far as pots and pans,
Yeah, at home.
I'm a big fan of Le Creuset.
Yep.
And they're beautiful, beautiful, beautiful cookware. I love how they look. I love the size of them. I love that they're heavy and they're really, really durable and everything else like that, right? It's wonderful, wonderful equipment for sure.
When you
Yeah.
talk about young cooks or families who love to cook together, are there certain tools that you would recommend every family have? Or if they wanted to, I guess, invest in something? I always say it doesn't need to be over the top expensive, but are there certain key things that you feel families should have in the kitchen?
Absolutely. Every family needs a really good frying pan. And you're better off having a larger one than a smaller one because there's a lot you can do with it. Every family should have like a selection of large pots as well, right? Because even if you're just making pasta, the pasta will cook better if it's in a larger pot. With the water, because the water doesn't cool down. It's great for making soups. It's great for like around the holidays when you're cooking for a lot of people. So a selection of pots for sure, a large frying pan for sure. I'm obsessed with spoons though.
You are, you are.
Um, the spoon is probably my favorite piece of cooking equipment, and I'm totally obsessed. I'm not exaggerating when I say I have hundreds of cooking spoons. Literally, I have hundreds and hundreds of cooking spoons, and they're from all over the world. And it's to the point now where friends, they'll be traveling. Like I have a friend, Charmin, who you would have met in Jasper. She bought me back a spoon from a three-star Michelin restaurant in Spain,
Like a
right?
tasting spoon. A tasting spoon?
Oh, like a proper spoon from the table.
Wow!
No,
That's
so
amazing.
so my friends know this about me, and I get gifted them, and it's just like, especially my friends who travel and like going, different places, they'll bring me back different spoons. But a spoon is probably the most versatile piece of equipment that there is in the kitchen. You can use it for so many things, and I'm obsessed. I'm absolutely obsessed with them.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love that. I
they
love
each have their own little personality, and they're all different. And yeah, no, for
And
sure.
chef, we've got one of our families, Kaylee. I think Kaylee is up in the corner. I can see. They live in in Maryland, and so I
Oh,
always tell her how jealous I am because they can get Kerrygold butter whenever they want.
oh, don't get me going.
I know
Uh,
it's a really
uh,
good butter, everybody, that we can't get in Canada.
So I feel, get a load of this, guys. I feel the best butter in the world is Kerrygold from Ireland. Don't tell the French that. The French will have a absolute tantrum if they were to hear that because they claim to have the best butter in the world. But I'm sorry, it rains 300 days of the year in Ireland, and what do cows need? They need green grass. And when you've got that much rain, it is by far, I feel, the best butter. And that's something Meg and I share.
Look at Kylie.
Hey, there we go.
That my
That's
Oma just left us some from Pennsylvania. Kylie's in Toronto. You've got the Kerrygold. Yep,
that's the goods.
that's
That's the
the good.
goods. Well
Kylie,
done.
did you have a question, Kylie? You had your hand up, sweetie.
What is the wildest food that you've tried?
Ooh.
Oh, good question. The wildest food, the wildest food. All right. So you all know I'm from Africa.
Mhm.
So you ever seen a Cape buffalo before? An African buffalo? So I've eaten that.
No.
I've eaten a lot of different types of deer down there. They have lots of like springbok and kudu and things like that, right? Um, um, but on the west coast of Canada, in British Columbia, they have something called a gooseneck barnacle, and you guys should Google that.
Googling it
Okay.
right now.
She's
Gooseneck
Googling
barnacle.
it
It
right
is
now.
like one of the craziest looking things, and it is one of the craziest looking shellfish. I love
Oh,
shellfish. I love everything from the ocean, actually. Sea urchin as well. That's kind of a
yeah.
crazy little animal with all
Looks
its
like a
little
finger.
spines and everything else like that. You have to be very careful when you're dealing with sea urchin. The Japanese call it uni,
Yes.
and it has to be extremely fresh. And I like bringing in whole sea urchin and cleaning them, but you have to be so careful because of all those little spines and needles that they have on the outside of them, right? Um, yeah, no, for sure.
Well, Chef, we have 5 minutes before we let you go. We could talk to you all night, I'm sure. Some of the kiddos need to get to bed on the East Coast, but I will
Fair
ask
enough.
this. If you could leave everyone, young cooks, young chefs, what do you think what are some best practices for young cooks so that they could continue to build confidence in their cooking? What would you recommend? Just as a chef who's been in the industry for many, many years, what do you advise young kids and teens who really like doing it?
So first of all, love what you do. Like you have to love it. I can genuinely tell you the difference between someone who hates cooking and someone who loves cooking. If you put those two cooks side by side and the food was submitted blind, I could literally tell you who was the happy cook and who was the unhappy cook based on the food. That is by far, experience has taught me that, right? And probably so really enjoy it. You have to enjoy it. And probably one of the most important things is clean as you go. When you are cooking, you have to clean as you go because that was one of the biggest things on my CMC kitchen exams is the examiners could never tell what I was working on because there was nothing ever on my station. And my wife still doesn't understand how I can like put together a meal at home for like 12 people and there is nothing for her to clean up afterwards. Nothing. Right? She always jokes about, "Oh yeah, no, 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 I do the dishes. That's my contribution." Well, there's nothing left to do when I'm done, right? Because you clean as you go because
Yeah.
it's about managing your space and it's about managing your resources and your time. And if you've got a lot to do, come up with a plan, come up with an action plan, kind of write out the sequence and the order of things that you want to do. Start with the things that need the most amount of time. And then the things that need the least amount of time are the things that you do last, right? And so just be organized, have a plan, love what you do, and clean as you go. That is so important.
Oh, so good. Does anyone have anything else they want to say or share? This has just been such an awesome hour. Have you guys enjoyed yourselves? Yeah. Kylie, you want to say something before we wrap up?
I also just want to say I also collect vinyl.
Oh, there you go. I love
And
it.
and I
Yeah.
also aspire to be I know Meg said that I want to own a bakery, but I also want to be an actress who owns a bakery.
Oh, well,
Oh,
hey, the sky's the limit, really.
well, you know what? You know what's something? I actually work with a pastry chef. This is a true story. I work with a pastry chef. His name is Clark Adams. I'm sure Clark won't mind me telling you all this. He was actually my pastry chef at Teatro back in the day. Now we both teach at SAIT together, and Clark is an amazing pastry chef. And you know what he likes to do on the side? You know what his hobby is? He's an actor. He does all sorts of productions in Calgary. He's done television commercials. He loves live theater. Live theater is what he loves to do. So there you go.
There you go.
Right? If that's what you want to do, there's no one stopping you from doing it. So you go get it.
Well, you know what? It's Cook with Meg has really been such a gift, I think, for me. And I always say this, and I'll say this with you in the room. It is an absolute honor to share an hour. I'll try not to get emotional, to share an hour with each and every one of you. You have made time for us tonight. You are curious. You continue to blow me away in classes with what you create. And a very important chef said clean as you go is important. So you don't just hear it from me, kids, you're hearing it from him too. And I just want to say, I'm just really proud of all of you guys. And it doesn't matter what you end up doing, whether you go on to a culinary dream or whether you just know that you're creating this lifelong skill that you will have forever. I want you guys to just know how proud we are of you all, and to you, chef, for taking the time out of your extremely busy schedule to talk to us is everything. I have some Kerrygold butter with your name on it, and we will get that to you as
Oh, you don't have to do that, but thank you. You
yeah,
know I'm going to love it. And
yeah.
honestly, my absolute pleasure. Cooking is what I love to do. And one of my second best things to do is talk to other cooks as well, because, we're an awesome community. Everyone has to eat. And, cooking is a very, very important thing. And to me, it's one of the greatest social vehicles that there is. And whether you do it professionally or whether you don't, it's still a life skill at the end of the day. If you can control what you eat and cook good food every day, you're going to have an amazing life. You're going to be healthy, you're going to be fit, and you're going to get the most out of your life.
Well, we haven't shared this with you all the culinary explorers, but we'll share it with you now. We have just secured our next guest. He's going to be with us in February. He is a good friend to you, Chef. Do you want to let everyone know who we'll be chatting with next? I'll let you do the honors.
Sure. His name is Vikram Vij, and he is in Vancouver. Vikram has several East Indian restaurants in Vancouver. One of his restaurants, his flagship restaurant, Vij's, is actually being recognized by the Michelin people. And Vikram and I actually worked together at Bishop's in Vancouver. And so Vikram and I have known each other a long, long time, and he is a very near and dear friend. And boy, are you guys in for a treat. because he is the master of spices and flavor combinations and mixing all those wonderful spices together. Absolutely amazing, man. Yeah. What a
Well, thank
treat.
you. Thank you to you. And if you guys enjoyed yourself, we highly encourage you to send a note that we can pass along to Chef. Thank you, everyone, for attending. It's now 7:02 here in Alberta, so we're going to wrap things up. But we will see you soon in class. I want to wish everyone a very happy holidays. If I don't see you before Christmas or Hanukkah, depending on what holiday you are celebrating, we wish you all the best. And to you, Chef, thank you for your time. And you never know, you might see one of these babes in your class one day.
I sure hope so, because it's a wonderful, wonderful craft and trade. If it's what you love to do, that's the caveat, though. You have to love it, right? Because remember, the guests can tell. The guests can tell if you love it or not.
Well, if you ever want to teach a Cook with Meg class, you have an open door policy to teach a class with us. You just let us know. I know there's so much that they could still learn from you. So thank you, everyone. And we will wrap up. Oh, we need to tell Chef how we end every Cook with Meg class. Who wants to? Ariana, yes. Turn your mic on, Sweepy. Tell Chef how we end every single class and why we end it the same way.
We end class by saying we are awesome.
And why is it important that at the count of three, we all yell, "We are awesome"? Why is that important? I'll go to Kylie. Kylie, why do we say we are awesome? It started on day one and it's happened for 1,000+ classes.
We say we are awesome for a good reason, because sometimes we normally don't know it that much, and it's always really nice to hear it from people who care.
Yeah, our days sometimes might be tough. We might have had a tough day at school. We might have had a tough day at the office or at our work. And sometimes we really only hear the bad stuff, and it's really nice to just yell that we are awesome. So we will do that with you, Chef, on the count of three. Everyone, turn your mics on. We will see you soon. We are awesome in 3, 2, 1.
We are
Awesome.
awesome!
Bye, everyone. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Amazing.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Bye, everyone. We'll see you soon. Thanks, guys.